Dave Campbell, 6:30, Chad. Edmonton football team color commentator. We're here, Dave, with John Frenzy, Hall of Fame rough. Well, you don't need any introduction to him. I'm just saying, Hall of Fame.
No, I don't.
Yeah, Rough Riders broadcaster.
Same with you.
Hey?
Same with you.
Oh, well, I know that. Yes, of course. Hey, you've been on the XFL Mark podcast. Your fate, dare I say, hangs in the balance of what's going on with the Canadian Football League right now. And can you speak for a lot of CFL people? And I'm sensing some frustration from you right now with where we sit a month out from when training camp should start.
Yeah, and it was, a month ago that we found out the CFL and the XFL were talking. What was Randy Ambrosie's famous quote now? We're talking about talking, which is actually underselling it very, very severely. And yeah, look, here's where I sit on this. Here's what I sit on this, or where I sit on this. It's all well and good to have these discussions because I'm in your camp, Rod, when it comes to the current state of the CFL is worrisome. And I think about what if we didn't have a COVID-19 pandemic? How far down the line could the CFL have survived if there wasn't a pandemic? Because we know that they weren't trending in the right direction. I've always said they're kind of dying a slow death here if they don't change things. But this has really accelerated how bad things are right now. So the XFL CFL talks are, it's fine with me if you want to explore options to try and make your business better. But for God's sakes, we got a season to think about here in 2021. We can't have two missed seasons here. And I'm not suggesting necessarily that the CFL has just said, we're not focused on a 2021 season. I know that's not true. What's been unfortunate is the over-speculation with this possible partnership or merger. And I think it's been a lot of noise that has taken away from what the real issue is in the short term is you got to get back on the field. There are players that haven't been paid a single dime from the CFL from playing a game since 2019. There's people that have lost their jobs that would like their jobs back, and not everyone's going to have their jobs back. So I'm a little concerned right now, just kind of where we're going as far as the trajectory of the league from a long-term perspective. We'll see where these talks go, but in the short term, we got to get back on the field, and that's what I think. That's got to be on the front burner right now. And you can still talk about, what we see a partnership with the XFL or a partnership with Dwayne Johnson and Danny Garcia with Redbird Capital. You can still do that, but my gosh, I have this really big nervous twitch in my stomach. My butterflies are flying when I think about. Can you imagine us not playing in 2021? I just can't. It just scares the heck out of me.
By the way, Larry Dye in Medicine Hat's watching. He says, that's a diehard EE fan when you paint the walls and trim green and yellow. He's a color commentator, Larry. Well, obviously a fan, too. But do you see why, Dave, that tweet of Naylor's yesterday, whom I have the utmost respect for, and Dave knows that, just sent me off the roof yesterday because I'm like, listen, you can't wiggle out now, right? You got the crux of what I was saying yesterday. I was very annoyed by that stance.
When you're asking teams to spend to the cap floor, when you're cutting $500,000 to $600,000, and by my math, that's about a $4 million haircut across the board, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, I don't know. And then the league office has been trimmed so severely. The offices around and the staffs around the CFL have been trimmed so severely. And then you have teams that are actually signing players and handing out signing bonuses. Not a lot, but we have seen it. I mean, we're positioning ourselves to try and play here. And then just to have the suggestion that, it may not happen now because of the fans in the stands issue, which I understand is an issue. But we've also had a couple of presidents, and I mentioned in a response to Dave that we had Rick Lawlisher of the BC Lions, the president, saying maybe we play 1-2 games without fans to appease health authorities, and then we get the go-ahead to have fans in the stands. But and what concerns me, and it's not necessarily Dave's reporting at all. It's just that Dave hears that from someone, right? He hears it from someone that's telling him that. And if that's what the attitude or the sentiment is with some within the league, that's worrisome. And Rod, you know Frenzy, I know this is a tricky league because, yes, you have only 9 teams, but you have 9 agendas. You have 3 teams that are community owned. The Edmonton football team, the Bombers, the Riders. You have 3 teams that are owned by a group. The Calgary Stampeders with the Flames, OSEG with the Red Blacks, and MLSC, who's stirring the whole thing, in my opinion, too, in Toronto. And then you have single ownership in the other markets. So you have 9 agendas and 3 different ownership structures. And we know on the prairies here, we want to play. But does everyone else want to play, under the current conditions? And we have to find out. I still believe we're going to have a season. It's a question of when instead of, will we have a season? But that's hard to navigate too. And I don't envy the league's position here. You hear the vaccine talk, so much talk about vaccines when the vaccine rollout, because they're so dependent on having butts in the seats. But, what if that doesn't happen as quick as we think? I mean, now we're hearing by June, maybe everyone can get a shot. Great. If that happens, then that should open the doors a little bit quicker.
It will all be up to the owners to show just how much they love the CFL. It would be nice if they indicated just how many fans it would take for them to operate. And let's bring Dave Campbell in from the 630 CHED Edmonton football team radio crew on that. My point, by the way, Dave, just to clarify, is that they should be saying, I think, we can't play with fans. It's not going to happen. So we're going to bite the bullet. As Larry Smith said, his term, we're going to have to bite the bullet and play without fans for the good of the league and for the players and the staff. That's what I'm hoping to hear them say, Dave. Does that seem realistic to you, or is that just not going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think if they do play without fans that they want to do it for a very short time. 1, 2, 3 games. Like, for example, let's say camps open in July. The games start in August. Could they go for an entire month and play, each team plays a couple home games, maybe one plays 3, I don't know. Would they be willing to do that and then for the rest of the way be able to have some sort of limited attendance, whether it's 20%, whether it's 25, 35, I don't know what it would look like. And I think that's the question that has to be answered is if you want to play a full 18 games, which I think is not going to happen, I think it's very unlikely. But even if you want to play 16, 14, 12, heck, even 8 or 9, and you have to play without fans, are you willing to do that? And I know, Rod, it's not like there isn't money within the CFL. It's hard to make money in the CFL. But we have groups like MLSC, who their worth is $5 billion. They have money. The OSEG has, it's over, $1.5 billion. We know that David Braley left a whole bunch of money for the Lions to operate over the next few years. Flames have money. I mean, Murray Edwards is a very rich man. And there's money within the league. And I know it's a struggle to make money, but I go back to last August where if it was only going to cost you $30 million to play a 6-game season within a bubble in Winnipeg, and I know things got a little hairy there with the cases with COVID, but if that's all it cost you, then why didn't you pay the money? Because I think the exposure...
Yeah. Is this league not worth that? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's my question right now. And look, I think the sentiment within the CFL is they want to play. So if you want to play, you got to find ways to play. And I do think that is going on. But if there's the attitudes within the league of dragging the feet and going, oh, I don't know if I want to play if we can't have the doors open to some sort of attendance, then I think that's a problem. And the problem with the league, and we talked about the relationship between the players and owners and league being difficult. It's been difficult within the Board of Governors department as well, because you can't have nine teams agree on anything. And there's always 1 or 2 dissenting voices, 1 or 2 voices or 3 voices that say, well, I think it should be this way and that way. And here we are. So we can't have that. So I think eventually they're going to figure this out. And a lot of this situation, it is kind of out of their control. But consensus at the Board of Governor level is what's really been lacking for a long time within this league, within the CFL, and it might be rearing its ugly head again. So they have to get on the same agenda. Are you willing to play without fans for a certain amount of time, a short time, before being allowed to have some sort of attendance? So that's the question I would like to have answered.
Michael Alley is a viewer of ours in Los Angeles. He says maybe one of the things being discussed is Redbird Capital putting funds up to help CFL kick off 2021 in a trade-off for a commitment to a merger. I'm sure that is part of it, Michael, but I also know CFL owners and governors well enough that they don't want to give up any control. They don't want to do that. They want the money, but they don't want to give up the control. And by the way, speaking of the XFL, Dave, what's the Cole's notes on your interview on the XFL Markcast the other day? What was the summation of that visit?
Well, first of all, I'd say Reed and Paul were very interested in the nuances of the league and the history of the league and where the league is sitting at right now. They both spoke with a lot of respect and a lot of had a lot of good things to say about the game itself. But then later in the interview, you hear, well, how can the CFL stand up to Dwayne Johnson and to Redbird Capital? I mean, you're broke. And I'm like, well, yes, but the one thing the CFL has over the XFL is they actually do have a league. They actually do have 9 teams. They do have staffs on all teams, even though, yes, it's been cut back severely. They know how to operate a league. They've been doing it for a very long time. They have broadcast agreements. They have a national rights holder with TSN. They know how to run a league. As far as making money, they could use some help there. But overall, it was a fun conversation. I think Reed Johnson was saying their podcast numbers have quadrupled since they've talked about this possible merger. So, Rod, we can give ourselves a little pat on the back for that. A little credit there for helping their numbers. But overall, it was a fun experience. But I sense there's some interest in this league from down there. But I don't know. Like at the end of the day, like how much interest is there really? Like I heard the number $100 million for a TV deal. Do you realize that's worse if they merged for the CFL? You get $5.5 million now with TSN. You would get that down to $2 million. That'd be a worse deal for the CFL. So I don't know. Yeah. There's a lot about this that makes sense, but I don't think the league has done a good job. The CFL has done a good job of explaining why this needs to be done. Now, saying that as well, the status quo is not going to suffice anymore. But I also think there's a lot of fear with a lot of people, including myself, going, what is this going to look like? And that scares the heck out of me.
Well, the people like yourself deserve better than what you're getting, as far as I'm concerned. And why the CFL needs to merge with the XFL, I think that discussion's coming, Dave. I think that announcement is coming. We have to run, sir, but thanks, as always, for coming on, the support. And I'll say good luck to you and stay safe up there in the City of Champions, my friend.
Thanks, Roddy. Same to you, buddy. Take care.
All right, Dave Campbell from 630 CHED joining us here from the Edmonton broadcast crew.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.